In this video, this is part 3, we're going to focus on the CountUpJS functions regarding to the options. So the options is the final part here. So this is the options here, and the options is a variable that contains 4 values. So, and these values are really nothing special, but they're nice to understand. And some of them really make a lot of sense. You will understand why. Alright, so we have the easing. Easing, if you maybe have seen it, easing basically is an effect. And let's look here. You can see here, and probably the best way to see the effect is just to see exactly the same item here. So let's save this, and the time should be approximately the same. Yes. So what we're going to do is we're going to do easing false. Yes. Easing is basically an effect that in the beginning goes very fast, and the closer it goes to a target, it will start to slow down. So let's save this and let's refresh here. Now both will go to 10,000. Just pay attention to the numbers. And you can see right now, this one goes very fast. And let's remove these decimals. I noticed that these decimals are starting to become a problem for me, and also for the design. So let's refresh here and do this. There you are. So you can see, look, it already takes some time here. It goes. So basically, if you have easing in the beginning, it has like a very quick run, and then after at the very end, it starts to go down or slows down a bit. While this one is what we call consistent. It will go consistent. It's a linear calculation. So let's refresh one more time. You can see here 3, 4, 5, 6. Pay attention to this one here up. There you are. So you can see the difference. So that is really with easing. So if you want to have easing, which is a nice effect, the beginning goes very fast and after that it slows down. And next we have grouping. So what is grouping? If you look here at this here, the comma and the comma here, you probably understand grouping. And let's put in some decimals as well. So you will see grouping faster. And I will say here false as well. And let's refresh, and then you will see instantly we have now grouping. And you can see where's the grouping. The grouping is focused only on the front, never at the end here, because the point or the dot or the comma, depending on what kind of style you use for writing, I'll explain that later on. But you see the front here, this is the one what we call a grouping for making numbers easier to read. Because if you have more than three digits, it will be harder to read. So that's why this makes it interesting. So alright, so what we can do with this is, we have here an option here to call, this is basically a separator. So the grouping, if it's true, has in effect a separator. But maybe this comma here you don't want, you want maybe a space. Let's do that and let's see what happens. So now, instead of having a comma here, we have a space. So you can help yourself to make it more clear. This is one of the very useful things. So what can you use here? If you are familiar, there are basically 2 ways that you should know. Yes, number 1 is what we call the American way. I will call the USA way, and that is that we use a comma as a separator. The non-American way, which is quite often used in Europe, is the dot. They use the dot to separate the 3 digits. If you want to avoid confusion here, what you can do is always put in a space. It's probably the easiest way, but this is the non-USA way. So that's very important to remember, basically. Alright, so if you do a separator, make sure it's always in for a single quotation. Here you can even put some weird things like a dash. Let's see what happens. Can we do that? Yes. And let's play around more. Let's say we set off this. It will be this is 1 million. 1 million. Let's check this again. Refresh. You can see now here 1 million here between. These numbers looks kind of horrible. However, you can almost, it's made for phone number. You can start to separate them. However, you will never use this for phone numbers, a CountUp function. So here, a comma for the USA way. Alright, so we have the decimal. So if you understand the decimal and the separator and you understand this here, this exactly the same but exactly the opposite. So a dot for decimal in USA and a comma for the non-USA. So exactly the opposite from each other. Then refresh here, you can see, oh, I think I didn't set it up here. So let's change this. So what we will do is we'll make this the non-USA way. And let's see how that looks. And I will just to shorten the amount of seconds, let's reduce that. Do it very quick. You can see here instantly. And you might wonder why it's not showing. Well, very simple. I indicate grouping as false, should be true. Let's save this. Refresh. And you can see here now exactly the opposite. 2 dots and a comma at the very end. So that's the non-USA way, and I think this is very much used in Europe. Alright. So now we almost have our things, and I think we already specified everything. So I think it's time, in the next video it will be time to start creating our own version of this. So now you have a full understanding of how this works.